What's happening, guys? Oxford King here, and in this Wuchang Fallen Feathers video, I want to go over some beginner tips that I've learned along the way that will help you in your playthrough. Let's get started. So Skyborn might in the game is showcased several ways. I'm going to go over how they're shown, and I'm also going to go over how you can get more Skyborn might, because Skyborn might is extremely important in this game. It's how you cast spells, it's how you use your weapon abilities and things of that nature. It's extremely important. So if you look at the bottom left corner of your screen, you're going to see a silhouette of our player character that's in red right now, but then you also see these feathers. Now, if you're a brand new player or you haven't bought the game yet, you're going to have just one feather. You can get more, and I'm going to go over how you get more in just a little bit. But just know that those feathers are your indicator of how much Skyborn might that you're able to acquire. Another way to read this is if you look closely at the bottom left part of your screen next to the silhouette, you're going to see these blue diamonds. It's going to be next to your spell, and it's also next to your weapon as well, depending on the ability. Some have 1 diamond, some have 2, and some will even have 3, 4, and even 5 in some cases. If you click on the menu here, here's another shot of the blue diamonds of this weapon here, and then here's one for this weapon right here. Off to the right, you're going to see Phantom Flurry will cost 2 Skyborn might to use, and then Flickering Blade is just 1 Skyborn might. These are just some examples. If I tab over to the equipment menu, here's some spells, and you're going to see the spells also require Skyborn might. You'll see right there on the right-hand side of the screen where it says Burning Flames, and it says requires Skyborn might. This example is 3. Now, the question begs is, how do you get more Skyborn might? Well, I'm going to show you. First, you're going to go up to the worship shrine, or the checkpoints in this game. You're going to open up what they call the impetus repository, or also known as our skill tree. And if you look at the skill tree, you're going to pan out. You're going to see all of this stuff. Everything to the top, to the right, to the bottom, it's all weapon-based skill trees. But in my humble opinion, the most important part of the tree, at least for me, was to the left. And when you go left, you're going to find something called Skyborn Call. And if you look right here, it says Skyborn Call Tier 1. And it even says what it's going to give you. It tells you it's going to increase the maximum stacks of Skyborn might by 2. So if you keep going down the list here, check this out. You'll eventually run into another one, Skyborn Call Tier 2, and then here we have Skyborn Call Tier 3. This is the last one that I found on the tree. There could be more, I don't know, because I am still playing the game as of this video. Now, there are ways that you can generate Skyborn might a little bit faster. Let me show you. Here's an example right here on this side of the tree. By the way, I'm going to pan out. And this side of the tree is the one-handed sword area of the tree. When you zoom in, there's something called Ascending Wrath. And on the right side, it's panning up, telling us when you have a certain amount of madness, when you have the final attack of a one-handed sword, it'll grant you Skyborn might. There's even certain nodes on the tree that says it'll automatically generate Skyborn might for you. Here's a weapon right here called Astral Blade. And when I hit the triangle button or the Y button, depending on the controller that you're using, it's going to come up with a weapon skill called Awakening Seal. And in here, it says grant stacks of something called Biding Time. Now, you can get Biding Time in other ways, not just with this weapon, but I'm showing this one example in this video. And what Biding Time does is it will accelerate the regeneration of Skyborn might. Like, basically, you're gaining Skyborn might over time. Another example is this one right here, where it says Swift Warrior. The 4th attack of a Dual Blades light attack combo grants 1 stack of Skyborn might if it hits an enemy. I mean, these are littered throughout the whole skill tree, even on other weapons, not just dual blades. Like right here, it says Mighty Combination. The 6th attack of Dual Blades light attack combo grants 1 stack. Another way that you can get Skyborn might is simply by playing the game, and you're going to come across these blue flowers. If you simply just walk over one of these flowers, you're going to see an animation happen where a blue light will float up into the air and then go towards you, and that is actually a Skyborn might that you're acquiring. So the next tip that I want to go over is called the weapon traits, and that you need to understand what these are. And the reason we're kind of bringing this up in the video is because when you first play this game, especially as a beginner, you're not going to know what any of these are. And I want to go over that really briefly in this part of the video. Biding Time is something that you can acquire either through a weapon or a weapon skill or even on the tree that allows you to generate Skyborn might over time. We just went over that. Charged heavy attacks are self-explanatory, but you don't know what Clash is. So Clash, there's certain weapons that'll have a built-in trait into the weapon called Clash. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back over to my weapons menu here, And if you look at, let's say, Watcher's Gaze +3, for instance, if you look at this, I'm going to hit the triangle button or the Y button. And if you look here, it says Phantom Flurry have something called Clash that's built in. So Clash, if you don't know what that is basically a way to keep or prevent damage from hitting you while you wave your weapon around. So if you go back here and look at Clash, it says these moves allow you to clash weapons with the enemy to deflect incoming damage. Now, the amount of damage deflected varies depending on the move, but there are ways that you can actually increase the potency of Clash through something called Benedictions. I call them runes, but they're basically benedictions that you slot into your weapons. Another way to gain Clash is go over to any part of the tree of the weapon that you are using. In this example here, I'm going to go over to the dual blades area, and I'm going to tab up here to the top right corner. And check this out. This one's called Leaf Slasher. And it actually says in the description, the 4th, 5th, and 6th hit of a dual blade light attack combo will gain Clash. So whatever weapon you're using, just go around the skill tree and read around on which one of these larger nodes will grant you Clash just by simply doing light attacks or even heavy attacks or any other attack that weapon is utilizing. Now, Poise Break is a trait that you can get through different means of spells, and you can get through tempering, you can get through weapon traits. It all depends. But Poise Break in a nutshell allows you to break through enemy defenses for extra damage, whether they have a shield or not, okay? Lowers their defenses. Next up is Deflect. This is another trait. Yes, this is like your parry in the game, but Deflect here, what it states on the screen is it only deflects another enemy's weapon and also throwable. So if someone's throwing knives at you, you can deflect that or parry that. But what you cannot deflect are punches and kicks. So any martial moves. I was fighting a boss that was doing a mixture of weapons and martial moves, and I learned very quickly that you cannot just deflect everything like in Sekiro, so heads up. So you're probably wondering, where can you get deflect and which weapons have them? Because I'm still playing the game, I only found 2 ways to get deflect. One way is through the longsword, and another way is through dual blades. So when you come over to the skill tree for longsword, come down to the bottom left part of the tree and tab over to a node called Sword Counter, and this is Deflect. So any longsword, you can implement this or add this skill to any of your longswords. Now, dual blades is a little bit different. I'm going to back out of the menu here, and I am going to open up the menu right here. And if you look right here, these are called Twin Bandits. And the Twin Bandit has a weapon skill that's built into the weapon, not on the skill tree. And although it's called Block, this version of Block has Deflect built into it. So don't get those words confused as far as block and deflect. But like I said, these weapons here have deflect built into the weapon that are agnostic to the weapon. And how you do this is you simply hit L1 or whatever your button's assigned to, because you can assign a button to whatever you want. I have mine set to L1, and it looks just like that right there for the deflect. Okay, that's for the dual blades. Another tip for you when it comes to the parry or the deflect mechanic, when you come over to the tree, and let's say you're on the longsword and you happen to grab sword counter, you need to look at the adjacent nodes. In particular, these sword counter variants. There's a variant tier 1 and a variant tier 2. The reason I bring this up is because the sword counter variant 1, it says deflect enemies attacks with sword counter to expose their vulnerability even further. What that means is when you deflect an enemy, they go into a stagger state for a little while if you have this variant. And then if you grab variant 2 of this, it says deflecting attacks with sword counter enables you to launch a counter attack. So again, grab this counter, but also grab the adjacent nodes of the variant versions to further enhance this version of deflect. Now, this is for longsword. Another example of what I just mentioned with longsword, there's another one that's kind of sort of similar in the dual blades area. It's right here called Steel Edge, and it says successfully deflecting an enemy's attack with the Twin Bandits weapon skill block, which is what I just showcased, causes the enemy to expose their vulnerability, which means they go into a stagger state. So just a heads up there for these types of deflects. Next one up is just simply block, but this one here is only for the large weapons, like a very large axe. As you see in the video here, that's going to be your block. Now, fleetness, does these moves have a way to grant fleetness effect? allows you to dodge a single attack, but you also gain Skyborn might. So think of this as a iframe move. Right as you press the button, you can do a backstep move, and I think this is only for spear-based weapons. The next tip here is the temper area, and the tip that I want to talk to you about is understanding first of all, what is tempering? So tempering is going to be basically your arm that's feathered, and you're going to be able to temper it with the acupoint system, and your left part of the screen is your main acupoint temper. You can do pretty much all the elements in the game. What you're seeing now, I only have a few unlocked. You get the fire one when you kill the first boss. You'll have lightning, you'll have magic. There's a ton of other types. But with that, you're going to have a support system of acupoints that go with that base one. So for instance, one of these is going to be your strength acupoint, and this one's going to be agility, or think like dexterity. But the tip here is you want to use the temper system against enemies that are weak to a certain element. Okay, so you'll find that later on, you'll fight maybe tree-based enemies or whatever. They're weak to fire. Use a temper here that's weak to fire, right? And the only way that you can equip tempers is at the shrine. And so right here, when you pull up the shrine menu, top right corner of the wheel, boom, you open up temper, and that's where you can unlock these. Now, how do you unlock these other slots? Simply go to your skill tree, Impetus repository, and you're going to look for a symbol that looks like this right here. Anything that looks like that is going to be a part of the temper system. You can unlock more acupoint slots. You can even unlock more temperance charges, which is another thing that I want to talk about in this video as far as the tip is concerned, is the following, because I had to learn this on my own. I was like, how do you use this? I didn't know. So basically, when you unlock tempering, you are going to equip this right here. This is an item, it's a consumable, but you can only get one charge per, I guess, not playthrough, but like one run before you die. So once you use it, it's out until you reset the stage, just like Lies of P and the special grindstone in Lies of P. It's just like that. But you only start with one charge. So how do you get two more? Easy. Go to the worship shrine, head over to the Impetus repository, and then come down to the left side, and you're going to look for one of these symbols here, and you can see right here it's called temper. You're going to grab an extra charge that way. Trust me, you're going to want this immediately. And then what it looks like is the following. You're going to tab through with the up and down D-pad, and then in this example here, you're going to have fire that goes just like that, and it lasts a pretty good while too. So how do you get more of the temper needles? So come into the Impetus repository, and then again, we're going to go to the left side of the tree, and then once you make your way over here to energetic, go up right here, and you'll see one of the wheels here where you can get more of these needles. So here's an example here. You get a bone needle called Poise Break, and then lightning, and then you have frostbite, corruption, and then blight. It doesn't stop there. You can get even more needles. If you come down here, you'll have a bone needle called Arcane. Arcane does magic potency for your weapon. Here's one called Bone Needle Magic that says it'll increase your weapon's spell potency. And then you have one called Bone Needle Leech, which is actually pretty awesome. This is going to leech health back onto you. And then finally, another needle called Feathering, which will increase the properties of a feathered-based weapon. If you put your weapon up like this, if you switch weapons, when you come back over to your other weapon, guess what? It's still there on the weapon. Now, there are some weapons that won't allow certain tempers on them. So in this example here, I'm going to equip this sword right here. I think this is the deluxe edition sword called the Moonlight Dragon. So here we have this sword here. Now, this is a lightning-based weapon. It's got lightning already built into the weapon. So just like Elden Ring and Dark Souls, when it's already has a certain element on the weapon, you can't add more magic on top of it. So as an example here, if you look off to the right, it's the icon for temperance, it's grayed out. I can't add anything to this. However, because this is a lightning-based weapon, check this out. If you open up the menu here, you go over to temper, and then you tab over to the main one, I'm going to equip lightning. Because this sword is lightning-based, it will allow me to put more lightning on top of an already lightning-based weapon, just like that right there. The next tip here is going over Benediction. Benediction, think of it as like runes that you can socket into your weapons, and once you open up the rune menu here, you'll see Benediction at the top of your screen, and you're simply going to just basically select what weapon you want to add Benedictions to. But the reason I want to stop and talk about this as a tips video for beginners is the following, and I didn't know this until as I was playing the game. I said, wait a second, This has almost like an armor set system that's built into the Benediction system, and I didn't know that. So check this out. When you pull this up, you're going to have different types. You have Oath, you have Memory, and you have Wisdom. However, if you look closely, each Benediction, not every one, will have an icon on the bottom right-hand corner, right? So this one here has an icon of what looks to be like a little small shield. You have an icon there, and you have one right here. Now, if you look off to the middle of the screen, you're going to see something called No Set Effect, and you're going to see some text that's panning from left to right, okay? And basically what this says is when you have a certain set across these three categories, you can gain a benefit. So if you look here, it says Skyborn Plume 1 of 3, but if I had all 3, it would say after gaining Skyborn Might, the power of your next attack is increased. The next one is called Impale. I only have 1 of 3, but if I had all 3, I would gain that benefit of Impale, which in this case has greatly increases the power of stab attacks. You get the point? So each one of these is going to have a set. Look for the one that's best suited for your build and make sure that you maximize and gain that Benediction effect or that set. Now, some of these Benedictions are one-offs. They don't have like an effect at all. And just because you didn't gain the set effect doesn't mean that you can't gain like the base one. So in this example here that I'm highlighting, it says if you have this one right here called Boo Blocking Clash, it'll say increases the potencies of blocks and clashes. So you will gain that one. However, if you don't have all 3 of this type, then you're not going to gain the Benediction set, which is called Skyborn Plume. Does that make sense? All right, here's another tip for you guys. When you first start the game, you're going to probably most likely have the hints off to the left side of your screen. It's like a legend for your button prompts. If you do not want that on your screen, this is how you remove it. Go ahead and open up your menu here with the start button, tab over to settings, click on game options, and you're going to go all the way down to button head. Simply turn it off, back out of the screen, and boom, it's gone. The next tip here in this video is read the spell descriptions because they may have more information for you that you may not know. So in this example here, a spell that you're going to get very early on in the game. In fact, after one of the first major bosses, it's called Echo of Datunga, okay? And if you read the spell effect, the definition, it says the following: conjure a crescent-shaped spade of fire that sweeps forward and then press the button again to smash down, causing burn buildup. I wanted to bring this up because some spells may have some extra information about it that you need to have multiple presses, okay? Because as a beginner guide, I don't want to go through all of the spells, at least the ones that I have individually, but I want to show this one off as an example because you'll get this one very early on. So let's go ahead and look at that spell real quick. And I want to make a note here that you must have the Skyborn Might to do consecutive attacks. Even though this spell costs only 1 Skyborn Might, in order to do the combo, you need to have, you know, obviously the second and third Skyborn Might. So this is what it looks like. When you multiple press the spell button, it goes 1 and then 2, just like that right there. You see what I'm saying? So you make sure that you read the description of the spells to learn more about them. All right, next up in the video is Madness. You'll also see something called Inner Demon. They're kind of both the same, and I want to go over this. There's a lot to talk about here. The Madness mechanic can be seen on your screen on the bottom left-hand corner. You're going to have a silhouette of your character, and when you see on this screen here, that silhouette happens to be glowing red. And if you look at our player character here, let me see if I can zoom in, her eyes are also turning red. Try to focus on her eyes. Now, let's go over to the character menu here, and you're going to see the Inner Demon, which is also your Madness meter. And you're going to see where I'm at in the game. I'm at level 47, and I have an Inner Demon cap or max amount of 132. As a beginner, you're probably going to have a max of 100. From what I've noticed, the higher your level, the maximum amount grows as well as you level, in case you're wondering how you get more. Now, the Madness mechanic goes as following. If you tab over to the help menu and you look at Inner Demon, open this up, and it's going to basically go over everything about Madness, but I have some extra tips for you as well that this doesn't tell you about, okay? But the first thing is the Maddening Incense. It's an item in the game that you can use. And basically, if you played Sekiro, You know how there's like the demon bell that you can hit and it makes the game a little bit more difficult? This is sort of like that, but it's an item that you use and it's timed. It does go away after a certain amount of time. But the maddening incense increases the madness when used and also prevents the loss of madness for a time. The shrines are able to ensure the powers of madness remain abundant. So let me tab over to my inventory and show you what that looks like. This is the maddening incense, and when you start the game as a beginner, you may have 0 or 1 of these in your inventory. Now, there is a way to get more of these. Let me show you. Go to the shrine and go over to your impetus repository or your skill tree. You're going to go off to the left and you're going to tab over to the section right here where it says Rising Madness. The emblem looks just like that right there. There's another one like this right here that's called Prolonged Madness. Now, in order to grab these on the tree, there's certain things that you need. You're going to need something called Bow Blood, but the bow blood is going to be dropping from a certain enemy that you have to defeat, okay? The Prolonged Madness says off to the side, it increases the maddening incense duration, okay? And this one here, it says the maddening incense charges goes up +1. So that means that the more of these you have, means that if you back out of the menu here, the more of these items you have in your inventory, like this right here, the maddening incense. And to use it, you can simply just select the item and hit use. And once you use it, it looks just like this right here. There's a timer on the bottom left corner of your screen. It's right beneath your stamina bar. And that right there will show you how much time is left for the duration of that maddening incense. Coming back over to the help menu under Inner Demon, let's go down to gaining and losing madness. This is very important. So when you're killing non-feathered humanoids or dying in combat, yes, I'm reading this word for word because this is what it is. This will increase your madness meter. There's another way to increase your madness meter that I'm going to go over in just a little bit. But it also says defeating most feathered enemies, and you'll know when they're feathered because they'll have literally the feathered graphic or something on their arm. That's a feathered enemy, okay? And this, when you kill them, they're gonna die. When they die, they have feathers that get left behind, and that's gonna reduce your madness meter. You will only lose some red mercury if you perish while at less than 50% madness. Red mercury is think of it as your runes or your souls, like, you know, from other games, okay? That's your red mercury. If you lose plenty of red mercury, right, your currency, if you perish while at above 50%, but below 90%, okay? However, you will lose all of your red mercury should you perish while at above 90%. So what does this all mean? The madness system is a risk-reward system. The effect of madness, her eyes turn red, which I just showed you, when your madness is above 50%. Activating related nodes in the skill tree grants enhanced effects, and I'll go over the skill tree in just a second to show you exactly what they're talking about. Now, demonic marks begin appearing while at above 90% madness. This makes you deal and take in increased damage. This is huge. This is why I wanted to stop and talk about this. So when you have 90% or more madness, you do deal damage. But be aware, especially when you're fighting bosses, that you're going to get 2 and 3 shot. So it's a risk-reward system. And it also increases the red mercury gain from defeating enemies. So what does this all mean? The more madness, the harder you're hitting, the more rewards you get. But you'll take in more damage. Now it says if you unlock the conversion mode, right, or node in the impetus repository, your swift draws, which is going to be linked to your L3 button. Swift draws, if you don't know yet, will basically switch over to another weapon automatically for you and deal more damage. And it'll become more potent, and it'll also restore health on hit. Now, this is if you have 90% madness. Now, cleansing your madness is if you wish to cleanse it, if you don't want any madness at all, apart from being defeated by your inner demon, you can also pray to the god of Shu, which is like a statue. You'll see golden statues in the game, and you can do a gesture to them, and you can also give them an item in return, like this right here. It says offering divine gifts or divine gift shards. These are items you get in the game, and when you do that, it's going to reduce your madness. That's if you want to basically make the game a little easier. Now, manifesting demon right here is surpassing a certain madness threshold causes a demonic mark to appear on basically on your neckline. Should you perish while at full madness, a powerful demon will chase you. Your inner demon basically will chase you and try to kill you. This is when you're trying to go back and get your red mercury, your drop red mercury. This inner demon will spawn in its spot, and she is very, very difficult. Think of it as a mini boss fight. Your inner demon may enter your realm of its own volition in certain areas, and killing her in certain areas will also drop the bow blood, which I've already talked about. Let's say you have no inner demon. If you look on the left side of your screen, actually I'll do one better for you. What if you have 0 of 132 or 0 of 100 inner demon? How do you get more? Fast. I'll show you. Come to the shrine, open up this menu. You see where it says invoke on the bottom right hand corner? Open this up right here. You see that red icon? That currency is actually a different type of currency. This is your madness or inner demon currency. That icon, well, it looks like a little red leaf. This right here, you can purchase these consumables through madness. So let's say I have 100 or I have 0. I can purchase these Raven pills. You purchase 5 of them and immediately you get 100 madness right out of the gate by simply invoking this menu here with that item. So you can go from 0 to 100 just by purchasing 5 Raven pills. You'll have your madness almost capped out. Right now, I can't purchase any. Why? Because it says too high madness to invoke this item. My madness is way too high. Another thing that I want to show you real quick is the benefits of madness. If you go to the impetus repository, there are certain nodes that will talk about thresholds of madness. So if we come over here, this is just one example, by the way, okay? There's tons and tons of examples, but let me show you a couple. This one here is called Fury of the Skyborn. Look at the bottom of your screen. It says impetus repository description. While at above 50% madness, the Skyborn might cost of casting echo type spells is reduced by 1 stack. Here's another one. While at above 50% madness, your temperance accelerates its effect on your weapon, enhancing them faster than usual. So your cast time speed of applying that on your weapon is sped up because of your madness meter. Remember that example earlier that it talked about conversion? This is it right here. So conversion says swift draws are more potent while at above 50% madness, while at above 90%, it becomes even more potent. And so swift draw is basically when you have 2 weapons and you hit L3, you can swiftly go to your other weapon and use its ability on the fly, so long as you have Skyborn Might, by the way. Here's another example with the spears. It's called Swift Lunge, but it's the variant 1 of the normal Swift Lunge. Okay, so if you tab over here, you get a variant of that. And it says while at above 90% madness, Swift Lunge will now inflict frostbite buildup when used with Skyborn Might. So the more madness you have, the more benefits you get out of it, albeit at a cost of damage. Okay, it's a risk-reward system. So here's an example of what your character looks like when she has a lot of madness applied to her. You can see it in her eyes and then on her shoulder and her body area. She's got all this madness everywhere. That's how you know. Another tip for you is poses. And when standing in front of certain statues, you want to perform that pose to get an item. So you can just hit the select button or the touchpad, whatever gamepad you're using, to bring up your poses on the left side of your screen. You have these. And if you hit the triangle button or the Y button, you have even more to choose from. But the tip here is the following. When you open up one, you see where it says that statue to check it? When you open this up, it's going to have a message. And usually it's going to have something in blue, almost like The Legend of Zelda, where it says, pay your respects before the God of Shu statue to reunite with faces of the past. Now, I've already done this, but I'll do it again. I don't think I'll get anything for this, but pay your respects. So what could that be? So what I did during my first playthrough here is I actually clicked on worship, and I did worship like this, and she'll bow a few times, and then I got an item in return. There were other statues, at least throughout chapter 1, that you're going to find that you'll perform an action like this and you'll get something in return. Next up is the skill tree explained, and how you get there is you go to a shrine and then select impetus repository, and here is the skill tree. When you pan out, you're going to have different sections of the skill tree. Pretty much everything on the right side and beneath the center is weapon based. Everything to the left is going to affect your entire character. Okay, now how do you gain points, or what points do you need to even get a skill point? That's called Red Mercury Essence. It's at the top of your screen, and right now I have 0. One way to gain Red Mercury Essence is by the normal Red Mercury. If I back out of my screen, look at the top right hand corner of your screen. Right now I have 2603, and right now you'll notice the icon is not fully red. What's going to happen, the more mercury you gain, you can actually see the icon change to a different color the more you have. And once you're able to level up, it'll actually change to a yellow and red color. You can gain red mercury by killing enemies, bosses, and you can also obtain it by using items such as a flawless red mercury, a growing red mercury, a budding red mercury, and red mercury sprout. Once you come back over to the skill tree here, you're going to open up the impetus repository and simply, number one, you can select the center of the screen like this right here, and it'll ask you how many red mercury essence would you like to purchase. You can do it that way. Another way is by going to an area on the tree that you want to purchase, and you can purchase a red mercury essence just by highlighting the next part of the tree that you want to go to. It's actually your choice. Another part of the tree that I want to talk about are different icons that you'll notice. Like the one you see here on screen is called a mana potency, and it requires 2 resources. One is a red mercury essence, but it also requires something called lost remains. You need both of these to increase the level of this, and you'll know which level it is by 2 ways. One, there is a diamond of like the 3 diamonds in the middle of your screen right here beneath the icon. You can also look off to the right and you'll see what level it is. This one says level 1 of 3. Tabbing up here, here's something very similar. This one's called a mana capacity. So here we need red mercury essence, but we also need forgotten remembrance. And once you purchase this, it'll actually show what level it is. Right now, it's 0 of 3. Another example is something I've already gone over in this video, but I'll go over it here as well, is called Rising Madness. Again, here, you need red mercury essence and 1 bow blood. Something else that I want to go over in this section of the video is the following. There are some of these nodes on the tree that have more levels than 1 level. So look at this right here. This one's called Agility. If you look off to the right, it says it's level 3 of 3. That means that I purchased this 3 times with 3 red mercury essences. Now the one next to it only has 1. So if you'll notice down below, this one's got these 3 dots around it. That's the indicator of how many levels that one is. So coming up here, you'll see this one only requires 1 level. Now check this out. This one's called Endurance. Now this one is level 1 of 3. So if I had another red mercury essence, I can level that one node up 1 more time. So my tip here, or my suggestion here, is to look at each one of these nodes and see what level it is. And if you can't make it further up the tree, let's say you need more agility right now, right at this moment, but you can't make it up the tree to the next agility node. So my tip here is the following. Why don't you go ahead and level up all 3 agility here? That way you get at least a 3 now. You can always refund later. Another part of this video that I want to go over is how do you level up your weapons? Now, right now, I'm still playing the game, and what I'm able to do at this time of the game is I'm able to get my weapon up to +6, but it comes in stages. You can get it to +3 first, and then if you come up here, you'll notice on this icon, I'm at +5 on these dual blades here. Now, if I want to go to +6, it says off to the right that not only do I need red mercury essence, but in addition to that, I need something called brilliant red feathers. There's 2 different tiers of these red feathers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to back out of the menu, and I'm going to go into my inventory right here, and I'm going to show you what this looks like. Right here is called a faint red feather, and it says right there in the item info, capable of upgrading a weapon's mastery, any weapon by the way, it doesn't have to be dual blades, it can be whatever, to +3 from within the skill tree. The next one over is called a brilliant red feather, and this one will take your weapon mastery up to +6. Now, how do you get these red feathers? Well, simply playing the game and defeating bosses in particular, or you can also defeat enemies that have red eyes. So whenever you see an enemy with red eyes, make sure to take out that enemy, because not only does that enemy drop these red feathers, but they also get you the essences that you need for the skill tree. So for instance, when you kill an enemy with red eyes, you get 2 resources. You get red mercury essence and you get a red feather. So make sure you take them out. Another tip here is look for these larger nodes on the tree that have +5 to a certain attribute. So as an example here, we have +1 endurance, and then this one could go to +1 endurance, but up to 3 times because it has levels. But this larger node right here is +5 endurance. There are others on the tree like agility, endurance, and vitality. So if you're really needing that higher amount, look for them. As an example here, we have one with +1 magic, and then we have another one here, but then above it is +5 magic. So the larger the circle or larger the node, the more attributes it has. The next tip I have for you is how to respec your points on the skill tree, simply open up the shrine, go to Impetus, Repository, and there's actually a couple of ways that you can refund your points. One is individually, like this right here. You're going to, whatever controller you're using, it even says at the bottom of the screen, you can do reset point just like that right there. It's going to be the square button or the X button on the Xbox controller. That's how you refund that 1 point and simply repurchase it like that. Let's say that you only want to refund this side of the tree, only these to the right hand side. All you have to do is simply select this one right here, and you can reset all 7 nodes and hit the A button or the X button, and then boom, you'll get your 7 points back or however many you have. But what if you want to wipe the entire tree? Easy. Go to the middle icon here, simply hit the button, and then here where I'm at with my levels, it says I can refund all 55 nodes. Another tip that I have for you is be sure to check the teleport screen here often, because just like other games, when you come in here, you're going to have quest icons and basically the image of the NPC that you need to talk to. So basically hop into the menu and go to where you need to, and you're going to see the face of the NPC that you need to talk to. Simply teleport there and take care of your quest. I would even get in the habit of returning back to the Reverent Temple at the very beginning of the game and checking out the decorations box or the donation box. It'll actually light up to let you know if there's an item in here that maybe you didn't pick up. It'll come right back over here. If you end up purchasing the Deluxe Edition, all of your Deluxe Edition items will be in this box right here as well. Be sure to return back to Wuchang very often, pretty much after you defeat a boss. And what you're going to want to do is find him at the Shoe Sanctum, at least early on in the game. And usually he'll ask you to hand over an item that you found. It's usually after you fight a boss. You hand over the item and he'll expand his inventory, so you have more items to purchase for him, like weapons and armor and Benediction as well. Same thing goes for Tao, the NPC. He is our boss NPC, so whenever you beat a boss, you're going to want to turn to this NPC here, turn in the item, and he'll expand his inventory on boss gear and equipment and things of that nature. So return here often, talk to him, and get the latest boss equipment. Bamboozling, these are the little guys that pop up and they run away if not killed fast enough. It's also the same icon as the loading icon on the top right corner of your screen. Once you kill them, they will drop something called a bamboo shoot, which can be exchanged at the Panda shop for valuable items such as spells and weapons. If one happens to escape, you can reset the stage at a shrine and they'll pop up again. Another tip that I have here is changing your controller settings or swapping a couple of buttons around. And you get there by going to settings and then controller settings, and then you're going to click on the controller that you're using. Okay, come down to the area that says weapon skill and discipline. You may want to swap those around depending on what you're using. With the longsword, by default, the deflect button is going to be linked to L2, which feels kind of strange. You're probably going to want that on L1. The problem with that is the dual blades. I'm going to go ahead and show you real quick. The dual blades here, it's called block, and that block is parry, but that's going to be linked to L1 by default. So it's really going to depend on what weapon you're using, but just know that you can go and swap around your L1 and L2 buttons. Yes, there is cosmetics in the game. You simply hit triangle or Y and you go ahead and select whatever you want. So I'm going to go ahead and back out of the screen, and this is what I'm wearing right now. So is simply go into your menu here, go over to equipment, and again, hit triangle or Y. And let's say I want to have this mask on, I back out, and here you have this. But what I want to tell you is the following. These cosmetics are linked to the item. What does that mean? So let's say that I want to equip something else like this, but I also want to have, let's say, this right here. So the icon is on the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, okay, of the icon. So whenever I go back to what I was just wearing, all you have to do is reselect the item. The cosmetic is linked to the item. Now I'm back to this one. Does that make sense? So anything that you apply cosmetics to actually gets linked to the item. And just so you know, you can actually link multiple things together. So again, in this example, I'll equip this one right here. You know, it looks like this, but then I go back in here and let's say I want to have that same cosmetic, which is this right here. So now I'm back to this. So if I go back into the menu, any item like this one right here, it's linked to that same cosmetic. They're all together. So does that make sense? So that's how the cosmetic works in this game. In Wuchang Fallen Feathers, we do have critical strikes. There's two ways that you can do this. The first way is by building up the meter. You're going to see a circular icon in the center of your enemy here. It can be a boss, it could be a standard enemy, it doesn't matter. And as soon as you fill that up, they're going to go to a stagger state. It'll have like a sound effect with a symbol, and you can do a front-on critical hit. The easier way, however, is from the backside. The only way that you can do that, though, is with charged R2. It's not as simple as like a Dark Souls game or Elden Ring where you simply walk up and do an R1. It doesn't work that way. With this game, on the backside, you have to do a charged R2 attack, and then you can do the critical hit. Divination Crescents are also used to reveal hidden paths, and the devs actually put one down for us very early on in the game. There is an area with a broken bridge that if you simply walk across, you're actually going to walk across a hidden path, and that's because this Divination Crescent was already laid down for us. So remember this when you're playing the game, that this item actually reveals hidden paths and secret areas. Be sure to locate the Cuckoo Birds. They will assist in guiding you towards the right path. So when you see one of these, this is an indication that you're going in the right direction as far as the level progression goes. But more importantly, if you kill them, no matter how you kill them, when you take them down, they drop something called an Aurum Feather. And this Aurum Feather, what it does when you use it is it'll randomly increase one of the following: max health, stamina, or all damage. But this is only for a certain amount of time. Once you kill one of these birds, they will not reappear during your playthrough. Make sure to pay attention to the control attributes or your weapon attributes. They're going to be categorized on the right-hand side of your screen here. So in this example, I have the Twin Bandits, and off to the right, you have your Strength, Agility, Magic, and Feathering. But more importantly, they're going to be categorized by a Roman numeral number. And these are basically tiers, like level 1 being the worst, and it goes all the way up to level 6. The more that you pump your numbers into this or your attributes into that, it's going to increase or level up that multiplier for the attribute. So in this example, you can see that agility or dexterity is probably going to be the best way to go for this weapon, as right now it's level 5. Strength is the secondary attribute, and it's currently level 2. I'm going to tab down to Watcher's Gaze, and look at this here. We have Strength, Agility, Magic, Feathering, but here we have agility at level 1, while magic is at level 5. So clearly this is a magic-based weapon. When you've identified this, it's good to open up the skill tree here and look for attributes that are going to further enhance the weapon that you're using, such as agility right here, agility +1. Here's a strength node right here, +5 strength. You can even look at attributes like magic. Here's some plus magic nodes right here, and then beneath that, there's feathering nodes right here. So make sure that you're matching the attributes of your weapons with the skill tree to further enhance the control attributes of your weapons. Just like other games, if you get the burn status, just simply dash around and you'll get rid of that status even faster. The next tip I have for you is to open up your menu and go over to the help menu, and then the first tab is system help. Everything that you have questions about will not only be in this video, but it'll also be in the game as well. For instance, if you go to Inner Demon and you tab down, they're going to have definitions of everything along with videos as well. This is the entire help section: weapons, armor, spells, jade pendants, items, control attributes. It's all here. And also combo display. Let's say you're playing a longsword and you want to know what the combo buttons are. Open up longsword, look at dash strike, you have your combo buttons right there. Infernal Firebrand, whip dance, Storm Lash Dragon, Blink Kick, it's all here. You have axes as well. Then you have dual blades. Then you have one-handed sword as well. Lots of moves here. And then you have spears, ebb and flow, flame strike, vortex thrust. Swift draw is a mechanic where you have 2 weapons equipped, and with enough Skyborn might, you can actually use that Skyborn might to perform what they call a swift draw. And how you do that is with a click of the L3 button. It'll quickly swift over or shift over to your second weapon. Now, if you're going to use the swift draw mechanic, you're definitely going to grab the conversion node on the tree. And I'm going to pan out. You can see exactly where it is. You're going to go left, a few over to the left, and then up one. And with this, it says you're going to have basically a more potent effect at 50% and 90%. So you want your madness to be as high as possible. And it also recovers a small amount of health on hit. In addition to that, when you switch weapons with conversion and the swift draw mechanic, the weapon ability or the weapon skill of the second weapon will automatically happen whenever you click L3. Let me show you an example of that. So in this example, I have the Moonlight Dragon hand in my main hand, and then the second weapon slot, I have Watcher's Gaze. Now the Moonlight Dragon weapon ability is called Stormlash Dragon. The Watcher's Gaze is called Phantom Flurry. And what I'm going to do is simply attack with R1, but I'm going to hit L3 for a swift draw, which is going to do this weapon's ability. Check this out. In this next example, I'm going to try out two different dual blades. By the way, you can mix match whatever you want. You don't have to do what I'm showing here in the video. I'm just giving you an example. In the main hand, we're going to have twin bandits. And when I have enough might or Skyborn might, I'm going to hit L3 for the swift draw. And it's going to switch over to this weapon here that you see on screen. And it's going to perform the weapon skill called Fearless Cleave for me. Now, make sure that you have the Skyborn might or else this won't work. Drop a comment and share other tips that I didn't get a chance to cover in this very long video. Drop a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next Wuchang Fallen Feathers video. Take it easy.